Have you ever been treated unfairly? Pushed aside, underestimated, or flat-out disrespected, all because of how you look? What happens when a gate agent drunk on her tiny sliver of power tries to snatch a first-class ticket from a black woman, thinking she won't fight back? She tried to downgrade her to a cramped middle seat, not knowing the woman she was messing with wasn't just another passenger. She was the one who held the airline's entire multi-million-dollar contract in her hand, and the corporate badge in her purse was about to silence everyone. The air in Chicago O'Hare's Terminal 5 was a familiar kind of stale, a chemical cocktail of Cinnabon frosting jet fuel and the faint, anxious sweat of 1,000 travelers. For Dr. Evelyn Reed, it was the smell of business. The smell of another city, another negotiation, another red-eye flight spent trading sleep for contractual revisions. At 42, Evelyn was the General Counsel for Astratech Solutions, a titan in the cutthroat world of biometric security. And right now, Astratech was vulnerable. A hostile takeover bid was looming, and this trip to London, this 11th-hour meeting with their new potential merger partners, wasn't just important. It was everything. It was the ballast that would either steady the ship or the anchor that would drag it to the bottom. She checked her watch, a sleek, understated Cartier. 7:05 p.m. The flight Globalis Air 908 was already delayed by 30 minutes. Boarding was supposed to have started. Evelyn adjusted the strap of her leather briefcase. Inside it, beneath the encrypted hard drive, was a simple laminated ID card, her corporate badge. It was a symbol of a life earned a climb that had been twice as hard and 3 times as steep as it was for her colleagues. She was used to being the only woman, the only black person in boardrooms that decided the fate of billions. She wore that armor of professionalism so tightly it was practically a second skin. The first-class lounge had been a zoo. Too many people, not enough power outlets. She had skipped it, preferring the relative anonymity of the gate. She stood back from the gaggle of passengers crowding gate M12, her eyes scanning the scene. That's when she first noticed her, the gate agent. She was a woman in her late 50s with a helmet of bleached blonde hair that looked crispy to the touch and a name badge that read, Karen Miller. Karen was typing with a vindictive fury, 2-fingered pecks at the keyboard, as a family of 4 tried to ask her a simple question about their connection. "Sir, if you'd just listen," Karen snapped, not even looking up. "I am dealing with a full flight. Everyone is dealing with a full flight. You'll get to Orlando when you get to Orlando." The father, looking defeated, shuffled his family away. Evelyn's jaw tightened. She hated that kind of petty tyranny, the casual abuse of a tiny sliver of authority. She'd seen it her whole life, from hall monitors to security guards to yes-gate agents. A new announcement crackled Karen's voice, slicing through the terminal. "Attention passengers for Globalis Air Flight 908 to London Heathrow. We will now begin our boarding process. We appreciate your patience. We will be starting with our active-duty military and families traveling with small children." A smattering of applause. Evelyn gathered her things, moving closer. "We now invite our first-class passengers to board." This was her. Evelyn opened her digital wallet on her phone, the QR code for her boarding pass, seat 1A, glowing brightly. It was a seat she had personally selected, a window seat in the bulkhead, the one she always flew in for this crucial London route. It was paid for, not with miles, but with the full eye-watering J-class corporate fare. She got in line behind a man in a rumpled suit. He scanned his pass. Beep. He moved on. Evelyn stepped up to the podium. Karen Miller didn't look at her. She just held out her hand for the phone. "Good evening," Evelyn said, polite but firm. "Phone," Karen grunted, snatching it. She waved it under the scanner. Beep, beep, beep. A harsh, angry red light flashed on the screen. Karen's head snapped up, and for the first time she really looked at Evelyn. Her eyes, a pale, watery blue, raked over her from her neat cornrows to her tailored navy blazer to her expensive leather carry-on. It was a look Evelyn knew well. It was a look of instant calculation, a look of dismissal. "Ma'am?" Karen said, her voice dripping with a false saccharine politeness that set Evelyn's teeth on edge. "It seems there's a problem with your ticket. I'm going to have to ask you to step aside." Evelyn kept her voice low and steady. "A problem I checked in this morning. Seat 1A. Everything was confirmed." "The scanner doesn't lie, honey," Karen said, pushing the phone back at her. "The system says there's an issue. Now please step aside. You're holding up my first-class passengers." The implication was clear as glass. "You're not one of them." "I am a first-class passenger," Evelyn stated, not moving. "Perhaps you should check your system again. The name is Dr. Evelyn Reed." Karen let out a theatrical sigh and tapped at her keyboard. "Reed, Reed, Reed. Ah, yes, here we are." A slow, satisfied smirk spread across her face. "It looks like we had a system-wide seating change. You've been reaccommodated." "Reaccommodated to where?" Just then a younger blonde woman in yoga pants and a designer sweatshirt, who had been standing off to the side, shot Karen a nervous look. Karen gave her a subtle, almost imperceptible nod. A wink. Evelyn saw it, and in that instant she knew this was not a system-wide anything. This was personal. "We've got a new seat for you," Karen said, her printer spitting out a flimsy piece of paper. She ripped it off and held it out. "You're all set? Have a nice flight." Evelyn took the new boarding pass. Her blood didn't just run cold, it froze. "Passenger Reed, Evelyn seat 34B, 34B. A middle seat, in the last section of economy, right by the lavatories." Evelyn looked from the flimsy paper to Karen's smiling face. "No," she said, her voice dangerously quiet. "This is not acceptable." Karen's smile vanished. "Ma'am, the flight is oversold. This is your new assigned seat. Now, if you're going to fly, you need to board. Otherwise, I will have to call security for delaying the aircraft." She was calling the bluff. She was banking on Evelyn being too embarrassed, too intimidated to make a scene. She was banking wrong. The line behind Evelyn had ground to a halt. The other first and business class passengers, mostly men in suits now openly staring, were shifting on their feet, their sighs of impatience audible. "Ma'am, you are causing a scene," Karen hissed, leaning forward. Her breath smelled of stale coffee and peppermint. "I don't know what kind of discount voucher you used to think you were in. First, but my system says your original ticket was invalid. This is what we can offer you. Take it or leave it." Invalid, Evelyn had personally reviewed the expense report. That one-way ticket cost Astratech over $8,000. "This is not a discount voucher," Evelyn said, her voice dropping to a precise, chilling calm. It was the same voice she used in depositions, the one that made opposing counsel start to sweat. "This is a fully paid J-class corporate fare. I can show you the receipt." "I don't want to see your receipt," Karen sneered, making air quotes. "All I know is my manifest, and my manifest says seat 1A is unavailable." "Then your manifest is incorrect," Evelyn countered. "I'm going to need you to find your supervisor, now." Karen laughed, a short, ugly bark. "My supervisor, honey, I am the final word on this flight. Martin Jenkins is my supervisor, and he's handling a landing gear issue on the tarmac. He's not coming. Your choice is simple, 34B or the terminal. The blatant aggressive prejudice was suffocating. Karen wasn't just doing her job. She was enjoying this. She was relishing the power to take this black woman in her fancy suit and put her back in her place, literally the back of the plane. Evelyn's mind was racing. Her entire company's future depended on the London meeting. She had to be on this flight. She couldn't get arrested or detained for causing a disturbance. Karen knew that. She was weaponizing Evelyn's own professionalism against her. Evelyn glanced again at the blonde woman in the designer sweatshirt, who was now trying very hard to look at her phone, shuffling nervously in the first-class lane. Let's call her Tiffany. Tiffany was now next in line. Go ahead, dear, Karen said to Tiffany, her voice suddenly warm and maternal. Let's get you scanned in. Tiffany stepped forward, avoiding Evelyn's gaze, and handed Karen her phone. Karen scanned it. Beep. A pleasant green light. There you go, Karen beamed. Seat 1A is all yours. Have a wonderful flight, Tiffany. Say hi to your mother for me. The blood drained from Evelyn's face. It was a setup. This wasn't just prejudice. This was corruption. Karen hadn't just bumped her for an oversold seat. She had given her seat away to a friend or relative. No, Evelyn said. The word was a command, not a plea. Tiffany froze her foot halfway down the jet bridge. Karen's face darkened with rage. Excuse me. I said no. Evelyn repeated, stepping back up to the podium directly in Karen's personal space. The other passengers melted back, sensing the shift in temperature. You are not giving my seat to her. You just committed a PNR violation, and you did it in front of a dozen witnesses. I don't know what PNR means, a man in the back yelled. Just get on the plane. It means passenger name record, Evelyn said, loud enough for everyone to hear. It means this agent just illegally gave my paid confirmed $8,000 seat to her friend. And I'm guessing Tiffany here is flying non-rev. Tiffany went pale. Non-rev meant non-revenue, an employee standby perk. Karen's face turned a mottled, furious red. I've had enough of you. I'm calling security. You're off this flight. She reached for the phone. Go ahead, Evelyn said, her voice like ice. Call them. Call airport security. Call the Chicago PD. But while you're at it, you had better call your supervisor, Martin Jenkins. Because the man you're claiming is on the tarmac, is actually sitting in the Globalis executive office right now. A place I know very well. This gave Karen a moment's pause, a flicker of doubt in her eyes. How could Evelyn know that? And while you're at it, Evelyn continued, her hands no longer shaking. She was in full General Counsel mode now. She reached into her briefcase, past the files for the London merger, and pulled out her wallet. Karen smirked. What are you going to try to bribe me? That's not going to work, sweetheart. No, Evelyn said. She didn't pull out a credit card. She didn't pull out cash. She pulled out her corporate ID, the simple laminated card. She didn't flash it. She held it up steady and level right in front of Karen's face. Astra Tech Solutions. Dr. Evelyn Reed, General Counsel and VP Corporate Affairs. Karen squinted at it, confused. Astra Tech. So what, you work for some little tech company? That doesn't mean anything to Global. The silence in the terminal seemed to magnify. Evelyn let the statement hang in the air. She could feel every eye on her. She looked past Karen at the Globalis Air branding on the wall. She looked back at Karen's smug, ignorant face. Karen, she said, and her voice was a quiet, precise blade. Astrotech Solutions isn't some little tech company. We are your largest corporate client in the Midwest. We spend $400 million a year with Globalis Air, a travel contract that I personally reviewed and signed off on 3 months ago. Karen's mouth opened, but no sound came out. The color drained from her face. Evelyn wasn't done. She pointed to a tiny symbol on her badge next to her photo, a small gold eagle. And this symbol, this isn't for show. This is my client priority code. It means I am a Concierge Key Client Priority 1 traveler. It means when I fly, I am treated as a guest of your CEO. It means... She leaned in her voice a whisper that was louder than a scream. That my name is permanently at the top of every manifest, and I cannot be downgraded. Ever. She finally looked at Tiffany, who looked like she was about to be sick. And it means that when I call your supervisor, Martin Jenkins, who I know is in his office, because I had a call with him this morning about this very contract, he will be down here in less than 2 minutes. Evelyn pulled out her cell phone. And that's what I'm going to do right now, unless you find my seat. The terminal was dead silent. The man who had yelled about the line was now filming the entire encounter on his phone. Karen Miller, for the first time, looked well and truly terrified. She stared at the badge, then at Evelyn's face as if seeing her for the first time. The professional, the lawyer, the executive, the black woman she had tried to humiliate. Now, Karen stammered, her hands visibly shaking as she fumbled for the desk phone. Now, Dr. Reed, let's not be hasty. I think I see the problem. It must be a system glitch. It wasn't a glitch, Evelyn said, her eyes like steel. It was you, and your friend Tiffany, and we are all going to wait right here for Martin. Here is the next section of the story. The silence that followed Evelyn's ultimatum was absolute. It was so quiet that the distant drone of a floor waxer half a terminal away seemed to echo in the space. The passengers in line had forgotten about being delayed. They were now a captive audience to a drama far more compelling than any in-flight movie. The man who had been filming now had his phone held high, a small red light indicating it was recording everything. Karen Miller's face had collapsed. The smug, petty tyrant of 2 minutes ago was gone, replaced by a pale, trembling woman who looked like she'd just seen a ghost. Her shaking hand was still hovering over the desk phone, as if she couldn't decide whether to call security, her supervisor, or her own union rep. I'll call Martin, she stammered, her voice a thin, reedy version of the sharp bark she'd used before. He must have just gotten off the tarmac. Do it, Evelyn said. She didn't move. She didn't lower her phone. Karen fumbled with the receiver, nearly dropping it. She punched in a 2-digit extension, her finger jabbing at the keypad. She turned her back to the crowd, hunching her shoulders, as she whispered frantically into the receiver. Martin, you need to get to M12. Now! It's a passenger issue. No, now Martin, it's her, the one from Astrotech. Tiffany, the would-be usurper of Seat 1A, was rooted to the spot at the entrance of the jet bridge. She looked from Evelyn to Karen, then back to Evelyn, her face a mask of pure panic. She took 1 step backward, as if to flee, but a stern look from Evelyn pinned her in place. You're not going anywhere either, Evelyn said evenly. You're part of this. Less than 90 seconds later, a man came running, not walking, running up the concourse. He was a portly man in an ill-fitting Globalis air suit, his tie askew and a sheen of sweat already gleaming on his high forehead. This was Martin Jenkins. Dr. Reed, he panted, skidding to a halt in front of the podium. He completely ignored Karen and Tiffany. His eyes locked on Evelyn with a desperate, ingratiating smile. "Dr. Reed, what a surprise. I thought you were in the lounge. Is everything all right? I heard there was some confusion." Evelyn raised one perfectly sculpted eyebrow. "Confusion, Martin. Is that what we're calling it?" She gestured with her chin toward Karen. "Your agent, Ms. Miller, just tried to downgrade me from my confirmed first-class seat 1A. Martin's smile froze and shattered. He shot Karen a look of pure, unadulterated venom. "What?" he whispered. She then informed me my $8,000 ticket was invalid and likely a discount voucher. Evelyn continued, her voice cutting through the quiet. She then offered me seat 34B, a middle seat, in economy. When I refused, she threatened to call security and have me removed from the flight. Martin looked like he was going to be physically ill. He was opening and closing his mouth, but no sound was coming out. "But the really interesting part, Martin," Evelyn said, "is what happened next. She then gave my seat, my 1A, to this young woman." She pointed at Tiffany, "who I'm gathering is a friend of Ms. Miller's flying non-rev." Martin's eyes snapped to Tiffany, then to Karen. The color drained from his face to match Karen's. He finally understood. He wasn't just dealing with an irate passenger. He was dealing with the General Counsel of his airline's largest corporate client, who had just been publicly humiliated and defrauded by his own staff. "Karen," Martin's voice was a strangled gasp. "What did you do?" Karen, seeing her professional life flash before her eyes, did the only thing she could. She lied. "I didn't." "She's lying," Karen shrieked, pointing a trembling finger at Evelyn. The system did it. It must have been a glitch. I was just reseating the passengers, as the manifest told me." Tiffany's ticket scanned green. It said 1A. "A manifest you control," Evelyn said, her voice flat. "A manifest you clearly altered to bump a full-fare passenger for your friend. You overrode the PNR, didn't you, Karen? You manually processed a seat change thinking I was just some random black woman you could push around." I would never," Karen cried, putting a hand to her chest. "It's because she's aggressive. She's threatening me. I'm the victim here." "The victim," Evelyn repeated. The word was so absurd, so offensive, that a small, dangerous laugh escaped her. "You are holding a printout of my new boarding pass, 34B. You just gave my seat to her, and I am the victim." Martin Jenkins finally found his voice. It was no longer the voice of a panicked supervisor. It was the voice of a man in full damage control mode. "Dr. Reed," he said, turning his back on Karen and giving Evelyn his full undivided attention. "On behalf of Globalis Air, I cannot find the words to express our apologies. This is an unacceptable, horrifying lapse in service. Of course, seat 1A is yours. It has always been yours." He rounded on Karen. "Karen, give me your credentials, your all-access pass. Now!" "Martin, no," she pleaded. "It was a mistake. Give them to me." He roared, his face purple. "You are suspended pending a full investigation. Get your things from your locker and get off the property. Do not talk to anyone. We are done." Karen looked as if she'd been slapped. She fumbled at her belt, unclipped her ID and a set of keys, and slammed them onto the podium. Tears of rage and humiliation streamed down her face, ruining her mascara. You will regret this. All of you, I have a union. Your union can't save you from fraud, Karen, Martin snapped. He then pointed a thick finger at Tiffany. And you are off this flight. Your non-rev privileges are revoked permanently. You're lucky we don't have you arrested for conspiracy. Tiffany burst into tears and, grabbing her carry-on, fled down the concourse, disappearing into the crowd. Martin turned back to Evelyn, his face a grim mask of forced calm. Dr. Reed, let's get you on this plane. He personally took her phone, scanned it. Beep. Green. Right this way, ma'am. Please, after you. Evelyn looked at the snivelling, defeated form of Karen Miller, who was now being quietly spoken to by another agent. She looked at the man filming, who gave her a respectful nod and lowered his phone. She gathered her briefcase and her dignity. Thank you, Martin, she said, her voice civil but cold. You and I will be speaking tomorrow, after I've spoken with your CEO, Richard Hamilton. Martin Jenkins' last shred of composure vanished. He knew in that moment that this wasn't just about Karen. His own career was now hanging by a thread. Yes, Dr. Reed, he said, his voice barely a whisper. Of course. Evelyn nodded curtly. She turned, and with her back straight and her head held high, walked past the silent, staring crowd and down the jet bridge, leaving the wreckage of 2 careers in her wake. Walking down the jet bridge was like emerging from a pressurized cabin. Evelyn's ears were ringing, her heart hammering a frantic rhythm against her ribs. The adrenaline that had sharpened her focus was now ebbing, leaving behind a profound, shaking exhaustion. She stepped onto the Globalist 707 and was met by the purser, the chief flight attendant. He was a tall, silver-haired man in his late 50s named James, and his face was a study of practiced professional concern. Dr. Reed, welcome aboard, he said, his voice a low, soothing baritone. He had clearly been alerted. The on-plane phone was still in his hand. James, Evelyn acknowledged, forcing a nod. Your seat 1A is right this way. Can I take your briefcase and jacket? Thank you. She slid into the plush, high-walled pod of her first-class suite. The sterile smell of lemon-scented cleaning fluid and new leather was usually a comfort. Tonight it felt suffocating. As James deftly stowed her belongings, a younger flight attendant appeared at his elbow. Dr. Reed, my name is Chloe. Can I get you a pre-departure beverage? We have champagne orange juice or still water. Champagne, Evelyn said, her voice sounding raspy to her own ears. Please. Of course. The moment they drew the curtain to the galley, Evelyn let her head fall back against the headrest and closed her eyes. The entire confrontation replayed in her mind, a high-speed, ugly film. The beep, beep, beep of the scanner. Karen's smirk. Honey. The sight of her seat 34B. The wink to Tiffany. She hadn't just been insulted. She had been targeted. It was a calculated, prejudiced act of theft. Karen had seen a black woman in a suit and made a better bet that Evelyn was either flying on a discount, wouldn't make a fuss, or was too intimidated to fight back. She'd bet that her friendship with Tiffany was more important than a customer. And she had lost. But the victory felt hollow. Chloe returned with a flute of champagne on a small tray. Here you are, Dr. Reed. The captain has just informed us we should be pushing back in about 5 minutes. Thank you, Chloe. Evelyn sipped the champagne. It was cold, sharp, and did nothing to calm her nerves. She was on the plane. She was in her seat. She was going to London. She had won. So why did she feel so awful? Because she realized it had been a fight. She shouldn't have had to fight. A white male colleague in her same position with her same ticket would have been met with, "Yes, sir, Mr. Johnson, right this way, sir." He would not have been called honey. He would not have been accused of using a voucher. He would not have been threatened with security. He would have just boarded. The sheer exhausting weight of having to be Dr. Reed, General Counsel of Astratech, just to be treated like a human being, like a paying customer, was a burden she was suddenly deeply tired of carrying. What if she had been a woman flying on a discount? What if she had been a mother, saving up for her one big trip? Would she have deserved 34? B. Would she have deserved Karen's scorn? No. The plane's engines began to whine, rising in pitch. The aircraft pushed back from the gate, and Evelyn looked out the window past her own faint reflection at the terminal. She could see gate M12 receding. She saw 2 airport police officers standing at the podium talking to Martin Jenkins. Karen was gone. Good, she thought, with a grim, cold satisfaction. The flight was as expected, a masterclass in obsequious service. James and Chloe were at her beck and call, yet managed to be invisible. They were, she knew, terrified. They were the flight crew, but the gate agents represented them. Karen's actions had tainted the entire airline. Dr. Reed James, the purser, reappeared after they had reached cruising altitude. He knelt by her seat, a practiced move that brought him to her eye level, a gesture of deference. "Dr. Reed," he said, his voice barely above the engine's hum. I need to apologize." "That's not your job, James," Evelyn said, tired. "You didn't do anything." "No, ma'am, I do," he insisted, and his eyes were full of a genuine, weary sincerity. "I'm the face of Globalis on this aircraft. What you experienced back there, it's sickening, and I need you to know, you're not the first." Evelyn's head came up. "What do you mean?" James glanced over his shoulder toward the galley, ensuring they were alone. "That gate team, M12, specifically Miller and Jenkins. The flight crews, we've filed reports. We've heard things. Passengers complaining they were miraculously downgraded at the last second. It always seems to be, well," he didn't finish the sentence. "Minorities," Evelyn supplied her voice, flat, "and a lot of non-native English speakers." James added, his face grim. "People who look like they won't make a fuss. People who don't know the system. They get told their seat isn't safe, or there's a weight and balance issue, and suddenly they're in the back and some lucky standby passenger gets their seat." Evelyn felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cabin temperature. This wasn't a one-time act of corruption for a friend. This was a pattern. This was a scheme. "They're running a scam," Evelyn said, the pieces clicking into place. "They're bumping paying passengers to give seats to their friends, or to people who slip them a $100 bill at the podium," James finished. "It's been rumored for months, but internal security says they can't substantiate it. No one with any, clout has been willing to go on record." He looked at her, and Evelyn understood. She wasn't just a passenger. She was the one who could do something, the one who couldn't be ignored, brushed aside, or gaslit. "James," Evelyn said, her legal mind spinning up her fatigue, replaced by a new cold anger. "When we land, I need you to write down everything you just told me. Names, dates, other flights, anything you can remember. Can you do that?" James hesitated. This was his job, his pension. "They can't touch you for this, James," Evelyn said. "I promise you. But this stops tonight." He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. "Yes, Dr. Reed, I can do that. It's high time someone did. He stood up, gave a crisp nod, and disappeared back into the galley. Evelyn turned back to the window. The sky outside was a deep velvet black studded with stars. But she wasn't looking at the view. She was drafting a letter in her head. It wasn't to Martin Jenkins. It was to his boss, and his boss's boss. It was to Richard Hamilton, the CEO of Globalis Air. This wasn't about a bad seat anymore. This wasn't even about Karen Miller. This was systemic, and Dr. Evelyn Reed, General Counsel of Astrotech, was about to pull the entire rotten system up by its roots. Here are the next parts of the story, continuing the narrative. The 8-hour flight to London was, by all physical metrics, perfect. Evelyn's seat converted into a fully flat bed. The meal service was exquisite, a 5-course affair with seared scallops and a respectable Sancerre. She even managed 2 solid hours of sleep. But her mind never rested. It was drafting, planning, and redrafting the email she would send upon landing. When the 707's wheels touched down at Heathrow, Evelyn's phone buzzed to life. Before the plane had even reached the gate, her inbox was exploding. The London team was prepping for the 10 a.m. meeting. The opposing counsel had sent a last-minute red line. But one email sent 30 minutes ago stood at the top. From Richard Hamilton, CEO, Globalis Air. Subject urgent. Our sincere apologies. Flight GA908. Evelyn's eyebrows shot up. Martin Jenkins must have escalated this immediately, desperate to get ahead of the story. She opened it. Dear Dr. Reed, I was just made aware of the catastrophic failure in service you experienced at O'Hare tonight. I am mortified, appalled, and utterly without excuse. This is not the Globalis standard. This is not how we treat any customer, let alone a partner as valued as yourself and Astrotech. I have personally placed the agents involved on immediate unpaid administrative leave, and a full internal investigation has been launched by our corporate security team. I am in Sydney for our new route launch, but I will make myself available at any time that is convenient for you. My executive assistant will be reaching out. Please let me know what we can do to make this right. Sincerely, Richard. Evelyn closed the email. Unpaid leave. Investigation. It was a good start, but it was corporate boilerplate. It was damage control. What it wasn't was a solution. As she deplaned James, the purser quietly handed her a sealed envelope. Dr. Reed, he said, his eyes meeting hers. My statement, and the statements of 2 other crew members who have seen this happen. Be safe. Thank you, James, Evelyn said, taking the envelope. You've done the right thing. She navigated Heathrow's Terminal 3 past through the fast-track immigration line and found her driver. The entire ride to her hotel in Mayfair, she didn't look at her merger notes. She read James's statement. It was worse than she thought. It wasn't just Karen and Martin. It was a clique of senior gate agents at Terminal 5. James had names, dates, flight numbers. He detailed a cash for upgrade scheme where they would target international flights, wait for passengers who seemed vulnerable, and glitch them out of their seats. They would then resell the seats for cash that never made it to Globalis, to last-minute standby passengers. The non-rev scam with Tiffany was just a lazier, more blatant version of it. This was a criminal conspiracy. She checked into her hotel, had a quick shower, and at 9:00 a.m. London time joined her legal team in the war room. For the next 8 hours there was no Globalis. There was only the Astrotech merger. She was a different person, a sharp, relentless, and persuasive negotiator. By 5:00 p.m., they had a tentative deal. The company was safe. She walked back to her suite, kicked off her heels, and finally called the number for Richard Hamilton's executive assistant. It was 1:00 p.m. in Chicago. He picked up on the first ring. "Dr. Reed, thank you for calling." "Richard," she said, dispensing with pleasantries. "I'm sure you've seen the video by now." There was a pause. "The video?" "Yes," Evelyn said. "A passenger in line filmed the entire 10-minute encounter. It's been sent to me. It has 50,000 views on Twitter already. The man's handle is @AudieWatcher." A long, heavy sigh came through the phone. "God, no, I hadn't." "In it you can clearly hear your agent Karen Miller call me honey, accuse me of using a voucher, and threaten me with security," Evelyn said, pacing her suite. "You can also hear her give my $8,000 seat to her friend Tiffany and call her by name. It is, to be blunt, Richard, utterly damning." "Evelyn." "Dr. Reed." I'm at a loss. What do you want? A lifetime of first-class flights? A public apology? Name it. It's yours." Evelyn sat down. "What I want, Richard, is for this to have never happened. But since it did, I don't want a payoff. I'm not a disgruntled customer looking for miles. I'm your general counsel for your largest corporate account, and I'm telling you, you have a rot in your Chicago terminal." She opened the envelope from James. "I have here handwritten signed statements from 3 of your senior flight crew. They detail a systemic, months-long cash for upgrade and seat swap scheme run by Martin Jenkins and Karen Miller, among others. They allege it's been reported to O'Hare internal security multiple times and has been ignored." The silence on the other end of the line was absolute. This was no longer an HR issue. This was a criminal case. "They're not just on leave, are they, Richard?" Evelyn pressed. "No." Hamilton said, his voice now cold and hard. "As of 30 minutes ago, after the preliminary audit of the PNR logs for GA 908, Karen Miller and Martin Jenkins were terminated for cause. Their credentials were revoked, and they were escorted off the property by Chicago PD. And Tiffany Linda, her mother is a 30-year reservations agent. Her mother has also been suspended pending an investigation into the fraudulent use of her friends and family travel perks." "Good," Evelyn said. "That's a start." "A start?" Hamilton sounded incredulous. "Evelyn, I've fired 3 people. What else is there? The system, Richard," Evelyn said, her voice rising. "This isn't just 3 bad apples. This is the barrel. Your system allowed this. Your culture, Tatao excused it. Your internal security ignored it. Karen Miller felt safe doing this, Richard. She felt empowered. She looked at me, and she felt so secure in her own prejudice and in your company's indifference that she thought she could steal my seat, and I would just go to 34B. What are you proposing?" He asked, his voice now that of a CEO, not an apologist. "I am proposing a full independent third-party audit of your O'Hare gate operations, not by your people, by my people. Astratech's security division. We'll do it pro bono. We'll find all the loopholes they've been exploiting." "That's unprecedented," he sputtered. "And what happened to me was unprecedented," Evelyn countered. "You have a video of your agent committing fraud on a client that gives you $400 million a year. It's about to hit the news. You can either be seen to be partnering with that client to fix it, or you can be seen as the company that lets its employees racially profile and steal from its passengers. Your call." Richard Hamilton was no fool. He knew a lifeline when he saw one. "Send me the proposal," he said, defeated. "I'll have it signed before you land." "I'm not done," Evelyn said. The audit is for the crime. Now we have to talk about the culture. The next 2 weeks were a blur. Evelyn's merger was a success, and Astratech's stock soared. But that victory felt distant. Her new project, her personal project, was the Globalis Air Integrity Audit. She flew back to Chicago not as a passenger, but as a client. She was met at the gate by the new acting station manager, a crisp, professional woman who didn't crack a single unnecessary smile. Evelyn's team of Astratech auditors, forensic accountants, and data security experts descended on O'Hare's Terminal 5. What they found was staggering. James the purser's statement was just the tip of the iceberg. The M12 clique had been running their scam for years. They had a system. They used internal messaging codes. They targeted specific flights, late-night international routes, where passengers were tired and less likely to argue. They targeted non-native English speakers, elderly travelers, and yes, disproportionately passengers of color. The audit team estimated they had skimmed over $300,000 in cash upgrade fees in the last year alone. They had also cost the airline millions in goodwill processing fake inconvenience refunds to cover their tracks, which they then funneled to their own accounts. It was a vast criminal enterprise, hidden in plain sight, protected by Martin Jenkins, who got a hefty kickback and enabled by a corporate culture that simply didn't want to look too closely. The hard karma didn't come in one fell swoop. It came in a series of devastating clinical and legally binding blows. Blow 1. The firings. The audit identified 7 other Globalis employees, from gate agents to baggage handlers, who helped expedite the luggage of the cash-paying passengers. All 7 were terminated. The U.S. Attorney's Office, on the basis of Evelyn's audit, opened a federal investigation. Blow 2, the legal action. Karen Miller and Martin Jenkins were the ringleaders. They weren't just fired, they were arrested. Karen Miller was charged with multiple counts of wire fraud, theft, and conspiracy. Her defense that she was a loyal employee and the system was confusing evaporated when the auditors produced logs of her PNR overrides and text messages to her clients. Martin Jenkins was charged with conspiracy and racketeering. His attempt to blame Karen was destroyed by bank records showing consistent, unexplained cash deposits that matched the dates of the scammed flights. Tiffany's mother was also fired, losing her 30-year pension and benefits after it was proven she knowingly supplied the non-rev passes for the scheme. Blow 3. The real-life karma. This was the part that hit Karen the hardest. Her victim act didn't play well in court. The video Evelyn had mentioned, it had gone viral. It was on every news channel, a perfect short clip of corporate prejudice. Karen became Airport Karen, a national symbol of petty tyranny. She lost her job. She lost her pension. She lost her flight benefits for life. Her lawyer argued for leniency, citing her age and years of service. The judge, a no-nonsense woman named Judge Annabelle Price, read from a letter. "Ms. Miller," the judge said, "I have here a victim impact statement, not from from Reed, who has chosen to remain above this, but from a family you glitched in 2023. A family of 4 flying to Seoul to see their dying grandmother. You downgraded them from their paid business class seats to economy, and they arrived too late. All so you could sell their seats for $500 in cash." The courtroom was silent. "Your actions," the judge continued, "were not a glitch. They were a predatory, racist, and greedy abuse of power. The karma, Ms. Miller, is not that you are on the news. The karma is that you are in this courtroom. You are sentenced to 24 months in a federal correctional facility." Martin Jenkins, for his role, received 36 months. Blow 4. The corporate reckoning. Evelyn Reed didn't just want the criminals punished. She wanted the system fixed. As part of the settlement, to prevent Astratech from pulling its $400 million contract, Globalis Air had to agree to a set of non-negotiable terms. 1. The Reed-Hamilton Initiative. A complete overhaul of the gate agent software. PNR overrides for Priority 1 clients became impossible without a 3-level authorization. Any downgrade of any passenger now required a digitally signed reason and was automatically flagged for a 24-hour review. 2. Mandatory training. Evelyn, working with the NAACP and other civil rights groups, helped develop and implement a new mandatory anti-bias and de-escalation training program for all Globalis public-facing staff. The first module was called The Cost of a Honey. 3. The Whistleblower Fund. Funded by Globalis. This was a new anonymous third-party system where employees like James could report fraud without fear of reprisal. Evelyn, on behalf of Astratech, signed the new agreement with Richard Hamilton. He wasn't happy about the cost, but he knew she had saved his airline from a PR apocalypse. Evelyn's final act was a personal one. She found out where James the purser was based. She sent a letter to his direct supervisor and to Richard Hamilton, detailing his integrity and courage under pressure. 2 months later, James was promoted to a senior management training position at the London Heathrow base, a job he had wanted for a decade. Here is the final part of the story and the concluding call action. 6 months passed. The world as it does moved on. The Airport Karen story faded from the news cycle, replaced by new outrages. The merger was finalized, and Astratech was more secure than ever. Evelyn Reed was, by all accounts, on top of her world. She was being courted for a COO position, a move that would make her one of the most powerful black women in the tech industry. Her travel was relentless. She was back at O'Hare Terminal 5 this time, heading to Tokyo. She walked through the terminal, a place that had once been a battleground. It felt different. The air was the same Cinnabon and jet fuel, but the atmosphere had shifted. She approached the new modernized Globalis Air podium. The M12 gate was still there, but the team was new. The agents were diverse, younger, and wearing small pins on their lanyards. Evelyn squinted to read one. It was a small gold eagle, the symbol of the new Priority 1 passenger care system. They had turned her own badge's symbol into a company-wide standard. Her flight, GA881, was called for boarding. First class. She stepped up to the podium. A young man with a kind face and a name badge that read Samuel smiled at her. "Good evening, Dr. Reed," he said, his eyes glancing for a split second at the tablet in front of him. A tablet that Evelyn knew now showed a high-resolution photo of every premium passenger, along with their name and status. No one would be called Honey by mistake again. "Good evening, Samuel," Evelyn replied, smiling. She scanned her phone. Beep. A pleasant green and utterly unremarkable chime. "Thank you," she said. "My pleasure, Doctor." "Reed," Samuel said. "Have a wonderful flight to Tokyo." As Evelyn started to walk down the jet bridge, she paused. A young woman, a college student by the look of her, was standing off to the side, looking confused and on the verge of tears. She was speaking to another agent. "But I don't understand," the student said, her voice small. "My app says I have a seat, but the kiosk said it was full. I'm trying to get home." Evelyn watched her body tensing. This was the moment. The test. The agent, a sharp-looking woman in her 40s, held up a hand. "Ma'am, please don't worry," the agent said, her voice firm but kind. "I see what's happening. Your reservation from the partner airline didn't handshake with our system. Let me fix that for you." The agent tapped on her keyboard for no more than 20 seconds. "Okay, there we go. I've resynced your ticket. You are all set in 22C, and I've put you in a preferred aisle seat, so you have a little extra room. You'll be boarding with Group 3. The student's relief was palpable. "Oh my God, thank you. Thank you so much." "Not a problem," the agent smiled. "That's what we're here for. Have a safe flight." The agent turned, caught Evelyn's eye, and gave her a small professional nod. Evelyn nodded back, a slow, genuine smile spreading across her face. It wasn't a glitch. It wasn't an issue. It wasn't a problem. It was just a fix. A simple human and professional transaction. She turned and continued down the jet bridge. She took her seat 1A, of course, and as she settled in, she looked out at the window. She saw Samuel and the other agent working efficiently, smiling at passengers getting them on their way. The system had worked. The karma had landed. Not just as punishment, but as change. Evelyn Reed took a sip of her pre-departure water, opened her briefcase, and began to review her notes for Tokyo. She was on her way. And this time the sky felt truly and completely clear. And that's how Dr. Evelyn Reed didn't just win her seat back. She changed the entire airline. She proves that one person can make a difference, especially when they refuse to be disrespected. Karen and Martin learned the hard way. Your petty power is no match for real integrity, and karma always cashes its check, especially at 30,000 feet. They thought they were just downgrading a passenger. They ended up destroying their own careers and landing in federal prison. What did you think of Evelyn's ultimate power move? Have you ever had a customer service nightmare where you wished you had a corporate badge to show? Let me know your stories in the comments below. If you love stories about justice, karma, and the powerful putting bullies in their place, then make sure to smash that like button, share this story with someone who needs to see it, and subscribe for more real-life dramas every single week. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next.